In my previous lecture, I talked about what is homeostasis and what are the different type of organisms on the basis of homeostasis, like conformers, avoiders, and the regulators. So now I will be talking about the next aspect of homeostasis, that is the basic mechanisms of homeostasis. So how the homeostasis works in living systems. So there is negative feedback in the living system, which is the main regulatory mechanism for homeostasis. So a referenced or a precise negative feedback system has three different components. First one is a sensor, which is used to measure the variable. So let's say if you want to measure the temperature, then of course we need a thermometer, and in the body we have specific receptors like thermoreceptors. Then the second part is the integrator. So that compares the sensed information with a set point. So let's say in a room, if we have a thermostat, we can set a temperature of 45 degrees. So now if the temperature increases or decreases, so this thermostat will compare that temperature with the increase or decrease. So this thermostat will be our integrator. A similar kind of integration could be possible in the living systems as well. Then we have the effector. So it is the device or process that actually makes the corrective response. So let's say, for example, if the body temperature increases, then it needs to be brought down. If it goes down, it needs to be increased. So that effector is the activity that will be done to decrease or increase the body temperature. So this is a typical example of a negative feedback system. So let's have a look at the first one. So here we see that we have a deviation in the control variable. So it could be any control variable. So it will be detected via sensor. So that sensor informs the integrator. That integrator needs to have some kind of set point. It should be temperature, pressure, anything. It should be set at a specific set point. So now this integrator senses that there is some deviation. There is some up or down in the set parameters. Accordingly, it will send instruction to the effector system. So that effector will bring about the compensatory response. So now that compensatory response results in the controlled variable. So that variable which was deviated, now it will be controlled back to normal. So this, if it is brought back to the normal, it will lead to negative feedback to shut off the system, which is responsible for the controlling the variable. So in a way, it will send a signal, and this sensor will be kind of cut off to this particular deviation, or it relieves it. So now let's see, this is the system which works. So let's see it with an example. So what is that example? So let's say there's fall in a room temperature below a set point. So let's say we have set a room temperature at 25 degrees. So now the temperature decreases. So what we have a sensor is a thermometer. So this thermometer detects the temperature is going below 25 degrees. So this is almost a similar kind of situation as we have in our air conditioner at home or in office. So this thermometer senses, and it sends the information to the thermostat. So that thermostat, now it will send the information to the furnace. So that furnace will increase the heat output. So usually this kind of system occurs where we have a heating system for the particular machinery. So now let's say in place of 25, now the temperature is 50 degrees. So if the temperature is 50 degrees, it may be connected to a furnace or a heater and will increase the heat output. So once that particular heat output increases, there is increase in room temperature, and as it reaches the set point from 15 degrees, if it converts to 25 degrees, then there will be negative feedback. So that negative feedback will affect the thermometer. So this thermometer will no more sense the change in temperature. Why? Because the temperature has already come to the normal set 25 degrees. So this deviation is already gone. So this is how our system is working. Now let's see an example in the living system. So if there is fall in body temperature below a set point. So below set point means, let's say the body temperature in humans is 37 degrees. So if it goes down, the temperature monitoring nerve cells, so those which are kind of responsible for the thermal or the temperature sensing, they will sense that okay, there is decrease in the temperature. So now it will send a message to the temperature control center, which is of course in the brain. So that temperature regulation center, now it will give a message to the skeletal muscles, the effector muscles. So now what it will do, it will start the heat production by shivering or other means. So let's say if the temperature of the hands is going down, so the hands will automatically start moving and starts running. So once there's increase in temperature again to 37 degrees, then there will be negative feedback. So that negative feedback will stop sending this sensing of this that the temperature is normal, there's no decrease in temperature, so the whole system will be shut down. So this is how the negative feedback system is working. So this feedback effectors, they can be antagonistic and can include behaviors as well as internal methods. So antagonistic means opposite kind of thing. So antagonistic control, corrections can occur in both the directions of change. Two effects with opposite effects, or a single that is regulated to increase or decrease effects. So either it could be two effects which are opposite to, or it could be one which could lead to increase or decrease. So example could be in the blood concentration. You can have glucose as well as calcium. So these are kind of negatively regulated. So they are how they're regulated. They are regulated by the hormones of the opposite effects. So now the stimulation of one group of nerve fiber increases the heart rate. So we can have nerve fibers. So one is responsible for increasing the heart rate. Another is responsible for decreasing the heart rate. So we can have antagonistic effect by the same set of chemicals, like some hormones. If that hormone is given, it will increase the heart rate. If that is not given, the heart rate comes to the normal. However, in case of nerves, there is a separate set of muscles. It is kind of increase or it can decrease. So it's the stimulation of these muscle fibers by giving that particular hormone. Behavior as factors. So behaviors, specific animal movement patterns in specific situations, typically requiring coordinated actions of many neural and muscular components. For example, if there is any kind of, let's say there's a cold day and hands and legs, they are warm. So in that particular case, the person will start rubbing its hands. So that is kind of a behavior, or it will even when let's say sitting, it will starts to squeeze up. It will starts to little fold his hands and try to push the hands inside with his armpits, and they'll also bring the legs closer. So another one is the avoiders. They use behavior effects. What are those behavior effects? That monarch butterflies, they can migrate from the northern United States and Canada to California and Mexico for the winters. Or if we say, let's say a simple kind of example could be, if we are feeling cold outside, we move inside our house. So that's the easiest we can do. Regulated change. So not everything in organisms is homeostatic. So usually we talk about the prevailing body temperature. So that body temperature could be maintained, and we say that this is a homeostatic condition. However, this homeostatic condition is not always maintained. This is usually disturbed when the body temperature varies in case of fever. So when a person has a fever, the body doesn't try to bring it down. In the wake and sleep. So I don't know if you have noticed that when a person is sleeping, the body temperature is a bit higher in case as compared to when he is awake. And also if the animals go for hibernation. So those animals also, the body temperature varies. So some internal processes are not always homeostatic, but may be changed by reset and positive feedback system. So in a way, the system which is controlling the body temperature, it could be reset. And that reset could be to new value. So some physiologists have termed non-homeostatic regulation as rheostasis. Rheostasis, so which means variable state. So two mechanisms for regulating the useful non-homeostatic change are there. Number one is the reset system. So reset system, if you remember from the negative feedback system, we have control variable. It goes to sensor and integrator. So that integrator has a set point. So now if we could have a reset system, so that reset system is kind of changing the reset that set point to some temporary or a permanent value. So that reset, let's say in case of fever, it temporarily increases body temperature to a little bit higher as compared to 37 degrees. So now the body doesn't try to bring it down to 37. Why? Because there is reset system. So fever is one particular example. Another could be the increase in the sex hormone concentration in mammals. So at the age of maturity, this hormone level is quite high as compared to what is in the infancy or the childhood stage. So at maturity, that reset is permanent, and now it will be having high level of those hormones. Annual hibernation in squirrels. So this is kind of cyclic. So every winters this will be on, and when summers come it will be off. So it is kind of internal biological clock that regulates. So this is kind of temporary but cyclical. Another system is the positive feedback system. So one that creates rapid change when conditions demand a rapid change from a set point. So let's see again, if there's deviation in the control variable, it and the sensor senses. Now we have the integrated or the regulatory process. So it will send to the effector. That effector will try to bring the change which will be there because of this deviation in the control variable. So in negative feedback, a control system resists the change. So in positive feedback system, the change is not resist. However, it is reinforced on the body in the same direction. So disruption in regulation can lead to illness and death. So if there is any kind of deviation from the homeostasis, it could lead to illness or it could lead to death. So when one or more of animal systems fail to function properly, homeostasis is disrupted. And all the cells may suffer because they no longer have a suitable environment in which to live and function. So let's say, for example, if lungs fail to do their work, they're not unable to exchange the gases. Now, because of that, there will be higher accumulation of carbon dioxide and less availability of oxygen in the body. It will be less and less available in the interstitial fluids. So now, because of that, the cells will not be able to take up oxygen, they will not able to utilize energy, and also the increase in the carbon dioxide level will lead to disruption in the pH. So hence the cell will start to die. So an example is the congestive heart failure. So let's say in congestive heart failure, what is happening is that the the circulatory system is not working. So the body is not able to transport the nutrients as well as it's not doing gaseous exchange. So in few minutes, the person will die. Organization of regulatory and organ system. So control of an animal function is often portrayed as a centralized command system with the brain and endocrine system regulating everything. So it is the brain which is regulating the body functions, the different systems by way of endocrine system, the hormones. So control in animal is hierarchical. So it's kind of step by step. So homeostasis and other regulation is hierarchically distributed. So at the most basic level, an individual cell can regulate its internal energy supply. So how much energy it needs, it can be regulated by the cell itself. It can regulate the ionic concentration, and the cell volume can also be regulated to some extent by the cell itself. Now, above the cellular level, the control system that operates can be of two types: intrinsic control or the extrinsic control. So intrinsic control are those regulated by a single tissue or organ on its own. So example could be that while exercising, muscles they produce. So when exercising, the muscles they rapidly use oxygen and they produce carbon dioxide. So now this change in the level of oxygen and carbon dioxide is detected by the smooth muscles. There are some kind of chemoreceptors which detect the change in the concentration of these two gases. Now because of that, they will be relaxed. The blood vessels which are supplying blood to the muscles, they will be relaxed, they will be dilated. Now, because of this dilation, there will be more and more blood supply to the muscles. So if more blood supply, it means there will be more supply of oxygen and more liberation or extrusion of carbon dioxide. And this kind of change is a local response. It doesn't need any kind of intervention from the brain. Extrinsic controls, these are regulatory mechanisms are initiated outside an organ to alter its activity. So extrinsic control of various organisms, organs and systems is achieved by the nervous, endocrine and immune system. So this extrinsic control allows coordinated regulation of several organs towards a common goal. So in this particular case, we have nervous system working under the control of brain with the help of different kind of hormones, and they could lead to one specific goal. So let's say, for example, when the food is available in the digestive system or it is available in the stomach, most of the blood supply will be directed towards the stomach so that maximum absorption can take place. However, let's say in case of exercise, most of the blood supply could be directed towards the muscles which are exercising. Let's say if somebody is running, then most of blood supply will be directed towards the legs and to the lungs in place of, let's say, digestive system. So these two centrally controlled. Okay, so the organ systems, they can be grouped according to the whole body composition. So there are about 11 major body systems: nervous system, endocrine, skeletal system, muscular systems, circulatory systems, defense or immune systems, respiratory system, excretory system, digestive, integumentary, and the reproductive systems. So this is a typical pictorial representation of what was in the previous slide. So let's say this one, this nervous system, it acts through electrical signals to control rapid response of the body. So this is also responsible for higher functions such as memory, reading, writing. Then we have this endocrine system also. So it acts by means of hormones secreted into the blood to regulate process that require duration rather than speed. So they are kind of nervous and endocrine, they are regulators. So they are regulating the respiratory, integumentary, and rest other systems. So this is all I want to talk to you about in this homeostasis system. So thank you very much for your time.